Yeah.
Whereabouts?
That's where we started. We're starting now.
Start.
Start at 375.
The knowledge removes the notion to worship. Right?
So, for the one that has self-knowledge, for the jnani, it says all activity stops, it goes away. Now, does that mean that from the perception of others, the jnani then stops acting?
No.
No.
From the perception of others, he continues to act. But then, what does it mean when he says that once this person gains self-knowledge, then all activity goes away?
He doesn't claim that worship.
That's right. Because, he's coming from where? He's coming from the self, which is, what is Satchitananda. And Satchitananda means limitless awareness. See, the limitless awareness is coming from the self. So for him, he says, I am not a doer. He's just like saying again, I was never born, in me there is no action. No, actions happen in me, but I'm not the actor. See like that? It's like action happens in the dreamer, but the dreamer is not acting. The dreamer is just sustaining everything that happens in the dream world. So now look at this piece. This is a fact now. This is not something that's going to happen in the future. Okay, it's not going to be an event that will happen in your life. This is a fact now. So that must be known. So the mind somehow needs to be blessed by this knowledge. In other words, somehow the mind needs to assimilate that. Okay, now, and of course you still do. That's not a problem. I mean, doing is not a problem. But somehow the contemplation, the understanding, is actually a cognitive change. You understand what I'm talking about? It's a cognitive change. Now, there was a time in which people thought that the sun was running around. Running around.
Mm-hmm.
See, that sun must be tired. Go and run around the earth all the time. And it takes no breaks, right? And there was a time in which it was thought that the moon it was self-effulgent. In other words, that it shined by itself. So now, now when they thought that, the sun was just still. That was a fact, right? And the moon didn't have its shine. The shine belonged to what?
Sun.
To the sun. Still, even though the people believe that it shines by itself. Is that true?
Mm-hmm.
So then, what happened? Through understanding, we found out now.
The earth moves, not the sun.
No. We're not talking about the earth. We're talking about the sun. We're talking about the sun. Now, did the sun became fixed when we learned that it didn't move?
It was always fixed.
It was always fixed, isn't it? Now, so that means you don't see the sunrise and sunset anymore?
We do.
So the sunrise and the sunset is seen. I mean, but you don't put upon it the sense that the sun is something you know very well. When are we going to meet? Oh, a sunset. So wait a minute, I thought you knew that. Yeah, but still, it sets. You see the idea? So the person can still enjoy the beauty of the sun rising, quote unquote, and coming up. Now, here, what I say is this, that the akarta is a fact. So there has to be a cognitive change, just like we now have a cognitive change, a cognitive understanding that the sun doesn't rise and still see it rise. So that wisdom needs to dawn upon the head and upon the mind, about myself and about the world. See, I feel like I'm a separate entity from the world, and I see that time-space rules me, and I act, in time-space, and I do, but I don't. You see the idea? From the standpoint of the jiva, yes, I do. In other words, I am limited by time, space, and all that from the standpoint of the jiva. But from the standpoint of who I am, I'm not limited. Now, what does that do to me? You see, look at this. Now, instead of me being the limited guy that takes the attributes of the thing that I hereby that I am living, which is this body. So the body has attributes. And then I take on the attributes of the body. The mind has attributes. And I take on, and all these attributes are limited. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, I become as though limited. So I have adhyasa. Jnana adhyasa. What does adhyasa mean?
Practice.
No, not abhyasa. Adhyasa.
Dhyasa is something that you long for it or you
No,
yearn for
adhyasa is a superimposition.
Oh, adhyasa.
Adhyasa. I superimpose upon me something that I don't have, and I take myself to be the attributes, and the limitations of the attributes are mine. So then I have a problem. Why? Because now I created a me that is not true. It's all mithya. It's just an apparent reality. And then I take it as real. So therefore I was cute and beautiful, now I am old and ugly. You see? So these limitations are not mine. They belong to the deha, isn't it? To the body. Now I give life to this body, no problem. And this body, of course, is within time and space, and is affected by that. And it does, but it's graced by my presence, and I don't do. Now, if that knowledge is there, that doesn't mean then that I stop doing. Like the sun doesn't stop, rising, and you can still say, I came and I went, I did and I didn't do. Like Krishna is teaching. You see that? But he's not teaching. The guy that was born one day, that has a birthday, and all that guy was, came to the war field, how do you call this? And he went out there and offered his services, and now he's driving the chariot and all that. He's evading the arrows and the spears and all that. And he's talking to Arjuna. And he said, well, he's acting. Well, he's not acting. It seems it is as though acting, like as though the sun rises. As though the sun shines, the moon shines by itself. As though. You see the idea? So you, as though, become old. That makes a whole. See all the stress that comes in with age. And everything else. Of course, the body will suffer the consequences of age. What's made of parts needs to come apart. That's the nature of the that's the nature of the body. But Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita here, in the second chapter, at the beginning, he says, there was no time in which I was not. And then those that you see in front of you, there was no time in which you are not there either. As a matter of fact, they will always continue to be. Even you will continue to be also. And there was no time that you were not. And he's not talking about reincarnation. He's talking about the truth. And then he uses a plural in that. You see all those guys there? See, there was no time. And you say, well, how many Atmas are there? So it seems like, duality is there. However, it's just like pots, as Swami Dayananda would say. Have all these different pots, different sizes, and they are abiding in space.
Yeah.
And even though there's so many upadhis, they seem to limit space. They say, oh, there's so many, there's only one space. The space of this part, the space of that part, the space of that part, but there's only one space. Now,